Rohit is with us. Lancelot D'Cunha also joins into the discussion. Rohit, just to complete that point, you're saying that 8300, 8350
8230 to 8250
is the next resistance zone.
Yes.
Okay. And this move that we've seen, how would you describe it? Very fast, I mean, 5% in 4-5 trading sessions.
Pretty insane, to put it very put it in good words. But when an entire move is done in 5 days, the big question is, what do you do? Should you just pile onto it after 5 days? And my short answer would be probably not. I'm still calling this a potential bear market rally. I'm not so sure we are out of the woods. There are a lot of reasons to consider why you could be out of the woods, but I think there are enough reasons to consider that you could also, hit a wall. So keeping that balance is important. And the big question is, are you going? I mean, if you think that this is a bull market, then are you going to go and buy out every sector and expose yourself? And if the answer you're still getting is no, you just buy this stock, you just buy HDFC Bank among banking. More like ICICI and Axis because they've become from best performers to worst performers. Similarly, if pharma was the best performing sector of last year, and if Biocon is the only good stock doing well right now in the pharma stocks. So if you're a stock specific market, then you're not in a broad based advance. You need to be in a very, very limited basket. And as long as that is true, calling it a bull market is really difficult. And therefore your exposure has to be based on an understanding of risk and value. And I think that's what, as far as the bullish positions are concerned, you'll have to be, and you'll still find many more trades which are on the bearish side. And so that keeps you on balance.
But the fundamental question, as you said, it's insane, right? I mean, the moves. But that's true with stocks as well. We've go back 10-15 days. Every day you have, and large liquid stocks moving 10% here and there, 10-15% here and there.
Yeah, so I'd call that insane again because, if you've really been through a bull market, you go back to look at the Tata Power way back in 2003. This is now not how the big moves really start. They start slowly, they build up, and at every level you have accumulation. You have enough time to buy. There's no reason why you should be buying. I mean, just imagine if I'm managing funds, would I drive up a stock 10% just to buy it? I probably would not. So who's doing it? So when you see something like that, it's driven by
the point
sentiment.
Is, take a look at the stocks which have done these kind of moves. And it's, by the way, both sides, up and down.
Yeah.
So it's news related, etc. as well. I mean, Jubilant, Lupin, Cipla, Dish TV, Ashok Leyland. You had that VRL Logistics. You have yesterday there was, Friday there was SBI. Yesterday there was Hindalco, right? Now these are all news related, events related, results related.
Exactly. So when you have moves which are purely event related, I would typically ignore them for a couple of days. You want a move to develop on its own, not just based on events and news. And that's more a real move. When I look at the market. So. I'm still looking at alternate exposures. I've discussed things like gold before, currencies. I think those exposures actually are giving you the kind of upside that you probably not getting across the board in equities. So if you have that kind of a balanced exposure, then my sense is that you'd feel much safer off.
If you're managing public money or a PMS or whatever, and you miss this move, you'd get beat up pretty badly, right? So in many ways you don't have a choice than to, as you began by saying, would you pile on and you throw up your hands and say, well, I missed it, I'll wait for the next dip. And maybe people don't have a choice, and that's what we're seeing as well. Some sort of a frenzy developing. That let's get on before.
That's the missed out feeling. So probably what you've seen is a missed out feeling just driving prices up. But the question is, should you feel that way? And with stocks, so like I said, it's a value and risk argument. If you tell me, like I gave you an example earlier, among pharma stocks, you've seen Biocon do really well. If you saw it 6 months ago, it was more a value buy because it was not performing with the rest of the pharma pack that had gone up so many times. And how have they done? All the pharma stocks are down. So are you value picking and buying something where you see the downside is limited, or are you getting into something just because it's the best performing area and there's nowhere else to go? So I am not interested in the nowhere else to go argument. I'm sure if you're a
gold.
I'd go to gold. I mean, you look at the gold fund. We discussed that you know, 6 months ago. It's up 80%. If people don't know, the NAV of the DSP BlackRock Gold went from 8 to 14. You know, just on a 15% move in or 20% move in gold prices.
Yeah.
And I think that's a trend ahead. Of course, we are seeing a correction right now, which may continue for a while in gold prices. Nothing goes on forever. But I think the trend there is up from a long-term perspective. And that's the kind of thing I would look at. So if I would I look at, you know, stocks that are beaten down right now, like PSU banks? You know, so if I'm looking for value, would I buy them now? Probably not. You know, so I guess my approach is very different because I'm not a mutual fund. So I'm not looking at relative performance or being fully invested in the market. You know, that's not my task. But if I was doing that, then probably I would be forced to think like the rest of the crowd. But I am not forced to do that.
It's a luxury, right? But I think that's for retail individual participants, that's the way to go. I mean, don't get forced into or don't get sucked in. Lancelot, what's your view?
I think I would agree to an extent, except that, you know, the market has changed over the years. Now, because of, you know, one is the reaction times to news has been much more instantaneous. So the moment we get, you know, the market gets news, it immediately has an impact because everybody is moving in that direction. So like you were saying, you know, maybe companies like VRL Logistics and, you know, Hindalco, whenever the news comes out, there is a surge in a particular area and people who are short start covering. So that really doesn't give you as much time as an investor to assess the situation and, you know, look at value from that perspective. So one has to be a little bit prepared in terms of eventualities. If the news is bad, be able to analyze it much more quickly and take decisions.
So I compiled a list of stocks, right, on May 27th? That was a Friday. So Friday, May 27th, BPCL, 10%, right? And other oil marketing stocks higher as well. On Thursday, that is 26th of May, L&T was up 14%. On the 25th of May, Tech Mahindra was up 10%. They're the large names. Tech Mahindra was up 10%, 11%. Right? On the same day, Cipla was down 5%. 24th of May, Dish TV was down 5%. ITC the day before was up 5%. The day before that, 20th of May, Lupin was down 9%. When I could go back at Bank of Baroda, I mean, actually, 15 days or so. These are, and these are not small stocks which can move up on some, you know, concerted buying. Large liquid stocks.
Correct. So that's what's really happening, that you have people who are, you know, the large players also are taking moves simultaneously, and that's what's impacting the stock.
But there's also one other explanation, which could be, I mean, it doesn't have to be one or the other. It could be a mix of both. One is, of course, reaction times, as you said, are much shorter now, right? Much smaller.
Yes.
But there is also, it could also be that, you know, in stocks left out feeling, L&T, for example, right? 14% higher. Stock did not do very well for some time, and the numbers came, and maybe lack of alternatives in that space. L&T reports a good number, and there is just that feeling to get in. You know, that is also possible.
Plus, people who would be short in that space, you know, the moment news comes out, they all want to cover, right? Nobody wants to leave a short position hanging when you have seen that, you know, results are good. So, and you recognize that people have changed their mind or their views about the company.
Yeah.
So the moment that happens, people who are short in that company also start to cover up their positions. And that leads to, you know, it's a combination of short positions plus buying that is actually leading to these sharp moves.
No, the point we're making, Lancelot, is that if, which Rohit made about the aggregate market, the full market, right? The need to get in. And the other point which he made is that it's a very concentrated rally. It's not a broad-based rally. So if you're only going to be able to say, okay, this is the one stock in the sector I like for X, Y, Z reasons, then can you really say, well, this is a, you know, things are turning at an aggregate level, or they are not? They're changing for some companies, and the stocks are being bid up because they were available at maybe attractive valuations or whatever. But it's not an aggregate thing. That's the point that Rohit was making.
Yes, I think that is true. It's not an aggregate. It's not a, let's say, an all-round market, because you're not seeing 80% of the companies, you know, all move in the same direction. So it's become very stock-specific, more driven by news, and the moves in those companies are sharper. But maybe because they've been large companies and, you know, are in the index, you are seeing the index move along with those sharp moves. So while we are not, you know, fully into a bull market per se, I think we are in a range-bound market at this point in time, because the upsides are going to be capped by maybe, you know, global events and things that are happening around the world in terms of moving flows out, as well as some of the domestic events which we are waiting for. For example, everybody is anticipating that we have a very good monsoon, and that should bring in a lot of rural demand. But we need to see that actually happen and play out, and that's going to take a while. And if it doesn't happen for a while, I think people will start getting anxious, and you might see some sell-off at higher levels. So given that background, I think we are in a range-bound market. So whenever one has an opportunity to book profits, one should do that, because it's not that it's going to be one way all the way up, And these sharp moves don't give people opportunity to buy in early. So it also gives an indication that if the markets are down or the day opportunity is there, one has to take advantage of that opportunity rather than keep trying to wait for lower and lower prices.
I mean, buy on big down days, basically, right?
I think so, because we've seen.
Because the only thing that one is seeing is big down days or big up days.
And those down days, you've seen a recovery after that. Like say, you saw maybe Lupin fall 10%, and then you got a 2, 3, 4, 5% move after that. So I think that also has some relevance in terms of saying that, look, if you buy on those down days or you sell on those up days, you are getting an opportunity maybe 3, 4, 5% lower to again cover up. So it's becoming more of a trader's market in a sense.
Yeah, but this 5.5% ramp up that we've seen, does it feel like it's a concerted, concentrated, HNI driven push up, ramp up? I mean, does it feel that way, or does it feel more?
No, I think
participatory.
I don't think it is not a participatory, like you're not really seeing huge retail participation in this rally. But definitely a large amount of the players are institutional, whether it is domestic or FIs. Both have been aggressively participating in the market at this point in time. So that's really leading to this move. But it's not a complete retail move. I think a lot of the retail money has begun to move into the mutual fund space. Which is something that we've been noticing for the last maybe 12 to 18 months, that you have seen flows build up in equity mutual funds, and that has been positive for the market. We also seen the life insurance companies now have significantly large, the private sector lives have significantly large corpus for investment in equities, and that is also growing. So from a flows perspective, we are seeing the domestic side of investors are building in cash flows which were not there earlier, and that to some extent is cushioning the impact of FI flows both in and out of the market.
Yeah. Rohit, any thoughts on the prices that you're seeing right now? It's a recent start, 20 points, 25 points.
Yeah, it's not great compared to what we saw that 4-5 day rally. I think yesterday also we saw 20-30 points, and then we closed almost flat. Today again we are seeing that, and we are just simply getting closer to, like I said, the 80 to 30, 80 to 50 hurdle, which is around 61% retracement of the entire 1 year decline that we've seen. That's around 80 to 45 to be exact. So somewhere close to that, I think you do always see pressure. And I think one other factor, we are continuously discussing the domestic factor. We are not discussing the global outlook. And the way the markets have behaved, we've seen this deviation on domestic news versus what is happening around the world. We saw it in Jan and Feb, for example. We were discussing then that the dollar is actually topping out and would start to fall, and that would cause a reversal in commodity prices and the metal stocks and so on. But our market continued to fall till the budget, essentially as PSU bank results were coming out, and there was a lot of negative sentiment. But that view played out because the emerging markets did rally between Jan and Feb, and then we only rallied after March. So you're seeing the same thing right now. If you see, there's already a reversal in the dollar. From a falling dollar, we are already into a rising dollar environment. We are already seeing a correction in most commodities, at least the metals. The only commodity which is not reacted so far is probably crude, and my sense is it probably won't go beyond $50, $51. And whenever you see that reaction, and also, so there's some lag also in our market versus the other markets. You'd eventually see the alignment. So whether it's few days or a week or so apart, you'd eventually see an alignment. If you continue to get a dollar rally, you're going to see a correction across assets.
And you think that we will get a dollar rally?
Of course, I think we've started a dollar rally, which is likely to continue.
Yeah. Gentlemen, just stay on the line. I'm being told Mr. Bhavdeep Singh, CEO at Fortis Healthcare Limited. Mr. Singh, thanks very much for your time. Appreciate you joining us. Prashant this side. Could you first talk about this entire thing about SRL demerger, sir? I'll get to the numbers in a bit. So you hold about 56% stake in SRL, which is a diagnostics company. Are you looking at a IPO for the business?
You know what we're doing right now, quite honestly, and is exploring options. One of the things we're very clear on is that while there's a lot of activity taking place in the diagnostic business, the SRL brand is firmly established. It's the largest, most respected diagnostic player in India today. And I think as any organization would, today our financial structure is such that Fortis Healthcare, the hospital system, and our diagnostic business, SRL, is under one umbrella. And at this stage, what we're doing is exploring. We're looking at assessing and evaluating what are the opportunities that might exist. And ultimately, it comes down to what do you need to do to provide the best possible care for our patients. But at the same time, we also have an obligation to our shareholders. And if there's an opportunity to unlock value that's inherent in the business, we'll certainly look to explore that. So that, I think the process will take 2-3 months. Just in terms of the assessment, I think if we're sitting here 2-3 months from now, we'll be able to make a more concrete statement in terms of what direction we're going to go in. And then, depending on what we actually decide, I think it could take 7, 8, 9 months, 2-3 quarters before the activity actually gets executed.
So you're saying about in the next 3 months, 3 months plus, we should hear something, right, in this regard? You're exploring options?
I think we should be able to confirm in the next 2-3 months in terms of confirmation. Which direction? We have a couple of different directions. We're evaluating a demerger, and certainly I think we'll have more concrete statements in the next 2-3 months. But certainly the clear action here is how do we maximize the opportunity to unlock value while at the same time positioning ourselves to continue to be the best pathology player in the marketplace and diagnostic player.
Yeah. You know, there's something to be said about timing. I hope you'd agree. We've had ThyroCare, Lal Path Labs providing fantastic benchmarks. I mean, if you come to the market now, you'd agree with that, right? I mean, it's a great time to list a diagnostics business now. And SRL, as you said, is the leader. I mean, there's obviously no doubt about that.
Yeah, no two ways about it. Timing, obviously. There is something to be said about it. I think there's also something to be said about brand equity, credibility, actual value that you provide in the marketplace. And while I certainly have a tremendous regard and respect for others in the marketplace, I feel very good about what we do and the positioning we have and the respect and credibility we have with hospitals, clinicians, and the end user, the patient. So I think that timing is good, but at the end of the day, more important is who are you, what do you represent, what do you deliver, and the value proposition behind your brand.
Sure. This would basically be you'll be providing an exit to PE players who hold about under 40% in the company in SRL, or would you raise some money for the company as well?
I think that is part of the that assessment process that I just mentioned earlier. I think we'll explore a couple of different options, but again, more to discuss as we go forward. I think again, as we think about the options, certainly we'll explore everything. Again, more concrete statements, I think, next 2-3 months.
Mr. Singh, thanks very much. Enjoy your holiday. Appreciate you joining us with that perspective. Thanks indeed. That's the management of Fortis Healthcare. I mean, the SRL IPO, if it were to happen, and I think it will, should be a significant trigger for Fortis shareholders, definitely. Any thoughts? Yeah?
I think, the space is interesting, and a lot of companies in that same space have come out with IPOs and are doing reasonably well on the markets. So that's something which will be looked out for, as investors. And it is definitely a positive or a big trigger for Fortis because
I am reminded of the comparison, which in a different context is like Crompton and Havells, right? Yeah. Crompton shareholders always say, well, we should get the valuation of Havells. Here it is Fortis and Apollo.
Yeah.
That very large difference in P multiples or whatever the valuation metric you want to sort of see. The hospitals business is not doing that well. I remember Apollo numbers as well.
Yeah.
It's growing from 4-5%, but the diagnostics business is growing 20-25%.
Yeah, because so you see, hospital is a very high capital intensive business, and you have to make huge investments as compared to the diagnostic business, which is much lower, capital requirement, and so returns are much faster and much higher. So that definitely impacts the valuation, and that's why we've seen higher values for the testing laboratories and the diagnostic business as compared to the pure hospital plays.
Yeah. Rohit, so gold, you said will continue to correct maybe a little bit more, right?
Yeah, I think I'm looking at somewhere around 1192 as a possible target. That's another $10-20. If it does get slightly deeper than that, it's possible. But essentially, it's a correction in a long-term uptrend that has started from December of last year. So we'd probably look at this correction for an entry point.
Okay. Any other, I mean, agri companies, etc., something, sugar companies, agri?
Yes,
that's
the agri
one
price
theme.
trend was one of the interesting trends of last year. It continues. If you look at global sugar prices, they hit a new high the day before. Yesterday, of course, US markets were closed. I think if that trend continues, and we're seeing it in domestic sugar prices as well, they also shot up from the 20s to 30, 35 rupees, and somewhere though these trends cannot deviate. So you would look at dips as an opportunity in probably sugar, and also I think in general, like I said, agri prices would go up. So you want to look at stocks that could probably benefit from that. Sugar is one of the easiest sectors to point out for such a trend. We don't have so many stocks in various other sectors. Otherwise, if you look at prices of say corn, wheat, rice, coffee, all of them I would think would probably go up in price, and they could be beneficiaries in each of them. So that was one interesting development, and which is within the commodity space, it is very opposite because you have falling commodity prices, especially metals, but you have rising agro prices.
Yeah. So that's the theme from the stocks perspective. The agri commodity is the one theme. Anything else in terms of trading ideas or?
Very short-term trades. I think now that you're already close to 80 to 50, we'll more be looking for where we can get sell opportunities. But I think that will take a couple of days because the market is still to give us the signal that it's reversing from here. So I'm not looking at any fresh buying at this moment.
Ideas for selling. Okay, fair enough. Rohit, thanks very much. Lancelot, appreciate you joining in with that perspective. Thank you, gentlemen.